Hi, my name is Priyanshi and I am a student in social psychology course. The topic I'm exploring today is social influence and conformity, and especially how negative thoughts and group pressure can change people's lifestyle and mental health. I chose this topic because I've noticed that sometimes people change part of who they are just to fit in, even when they know it's against their morals and ethics, but they still choose to do it. And this relates directly to social psychology because it shows how our behaviors and choices are often shaped by the groups and us. Okay, so today I'm here with my friend Surya. Surya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, like you said, I'm Surya Sapidi. I am an alumni at Georgian College and we're roommates. Priyanshi brought up about this podcast a couple of days ago and she told me about the topic. I had all of the interest in the world the moment she mentioned what it's going to be about. So,
That's it, you don't have to speak
yeah,
that much.
thank you. Excited
So-
to be a part of this.
I'm gonna ask you a few questions. Like, I'm gonna ask you 5 questions.
Okay.
Okay. So, Surya, my first question for you would be, why do you think people often adapt negative habits or lifestyles just to fit in with the group, even when they know it's wrong?
I think a part of the answer is in the question you asked. It is to try and fit into the group, especially when they don't have any other friend groups or any other opportunities to mingle in social groups. We try and do stuff, although which is not in our best interest. And there's also this thing, it's a very Gen Z term. We call it FOMO, fear of missing out. And that is a big part, that takes a big part in today's lives, where you see people posting stories and doing stuff and you keep getting that feeling. So to get that experience, you try not to be separate and we try and mingle with them. And I think this is a big part of why people still do stuff that they're not into.
Exactly. You're like 101% right. So, from what I've studied, research shows that need to belonging is very powerful. It's kind of a survival instinct for a lot of people, and groups can reward you for like fitting in, and if you don't, the rejection fear is very big nowadays. So even when someone knows something is unhealthy, the fear of being excluded can be stronger. So my second question for you would be, how do negative thoughts or beliefs spread within social groups, and what impact do you think it has on someone's mental health?
The biggest way I think they spread out is when someone starts sharing what's happening around the world that is not the most pleasant. And also when they start sharing their own trauma, which is not wrong at all. Being a part of the friend group, that is a big part, right? But then I feel like once they share it, for a period of time, you start thinking about stuff in a negative way. So whatever you think of, that's the first thing that comes to your mind, and you start seeing things from a different perspective. So I think that's one way the group bias has a negative effect on us and towards our mental health, where we also start self-criticism.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
think all of this leads to that.
Yep, exactly. All right. So, my third question for you would be, so can you share an example from your own life or someone you know where social influence changed someone's behavior either in a positive or a negative way?
Wow, I can think a lot of things, a lot of times that has happened. Mostly positive. That's how it's been. This goes back a few years. It was 5 6 years where we just graduated from high school and we were still trying to figure out what we could do. And that's when we mingled up, and that's when COVID hit too. So we had a lot of free time on our hands, and we used to hang out with a lot of friend groups. We used to meet mutual friends and cousins, And we met this one person, Karthik, great guy, incredible guy. He was mostly, or at least the people he used to hang out with, were mostly slightly on the spoiled side, where they didn't have any goals and, they were professional alcoholics, where the only goal in life back then for them was to meet, hang out, and then drink. And then when he came into when he started hanging out with us, that's how he was initially, and he also started drinking with us. But then in my friend group, we're not big drinkers. Then it slowly started off normal, and then it went down and down and down. We used to find other activities to do, where we used to go hiking, trekking, cycling. So this was one positive influence is what we thought we were doing to him, but we didn't see the change just yet. It took a while for him. It was also very subtle, and slowly started reducing it. And that's when we realized, okay, you know what? Once we give people time, they can realize it by themselves, and the change comes from within. So this was one positive change that I can think of.
Yeah, that's a really good example. It shows how strong social influence could be. Sometimes it's subtle and we don't notice until later. It really shows how powerful group environments are. Okay, so our fourth question would be, what strategies do you think people can adopt which are effective for resisting harmful social pressure while still keeping your social connections?
Wow, that is a tough question. I think whenever you're part of a group, a friend group, you're with colleagues, co-workers, cousins, family, whoever it is important to make our boundaries clear. And if it is with friends, they already know what your boundaries are. And yet, if they keep trying to get you to pursue something you're not comfortable with, it means that it's time to say bye bye to that group. But with others, you've got to try and communicate, because some groups, some people, from what I've observed, they need a little bit of pushback. And until they don't get that, they're going to keep trying to get you to do
So-
stuff that you're not okay with.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm
please
interrupting
go
you.
on.
So the last thing is, you still still have to keep the connections.
Right, that's where I was going now.
Okay, I'm
So I
sorry.
think, no, that's okay. So like I said, communication is key, and letting them know exactly where our walls are and what would happen if you were to cross those. And that's not something you want, and that's also not something that they want. So you being a part of that group, they already know, and they like you for what you already are. So they should also be okay with you staying that way and not wanting you to come out of your boundaries and stepping out for them for their entertainment. And yeah, that's all.
Yep, that's 100% right. I completely agree with this. In fact, like what psychologists recommend is to set like clear boundaries, like knowing what you're comfortable with and communicating it with your friend groups or your connections. Mindfulness and self awareness also helps, because when you understand your own boundaries, it's hard for people to pull you in. So, my last question for you would be, do you think conformity is always negative, or sometimes it can be positive too? How should someone balance fitting in with staying true to themselves?
What is conformity again? I'm joking. I don't think it's always bad. There's also positives to it, but it depends on how we perceive and how we receive what others are communicating and what is going on through your group's minds, right? And as far as I'm concerned, all of us should try and keep it as positive as possible, especially when we're in social groups. And that's how it's been mostly for me in most groups I've been. So I think it doesn't always have to be negative, and yeah, it has both sides to it, both positive and negative.
Alright, yeah. I think that too. So conformity isn't always bad. Sometimes it helps build teamwork and shared identity. But the key is making sure that you're not losing yourself in the process. Staying aware of what your values are, being mindful of it, and being true to true to yourself is very important. And one thing I would like to say at the last is, if you are not strong with your values, and if you don't know what person you are, you can be easily influenced, and conformity can easily take part in your lives.
I agree. It was a great podcast. We
Thank
should
you.
do more of these.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for
Professor.
watching.
Yeah, thank you, Professor, for letting this happen.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.